is his, profiling in Facebook, profiling in Twitter, etc. And then through web crawling, that tool helps you to throw some very interesting insights. And actually, he made me see one or two such analytics. It's very interesting. But actually, it works out to be very expensive if you have to commercially put across all those kind of tools. So how did we approach at MTS? We regularly assessed and asked business that next year, what are the outcomes you expect from HR? And if we can list down, this is the analytics we make. If you want some changes, please suggest. We can draw all those ratios on Blackboard first. And then we start developing this matrix. So through, I think, 2 to 3 months of such exercise, we have arrived at a, worksheet which talked about capability, which talked about capacity, which talked about new initiatives, etc. So basically concentrating on HR as a function, operationally what are you doing, business is more interested in that, and HR as a function because functionally also you are responsible for the organization in terms of creating culture, in terms of attracting and retaining talent. So on development side or on futuristic side, what are you trying to do in the organization? So now in one sheet, we are able to show some kind of analytics, which in technical terms we call level 2 of big data is level 3. We say it is level 2. Level 1 is only reporting data. Level 2 is when you are trying to find out if something has happened, why it has happened, and what could have been better. So that is the stage we have reached actually. So during the course of further discussions, if we have any such, examples to share, I'll be happy.
Thanks, Tarun. I think that just kind of clarified for every one of us the levels and the big data concept. Coming back to you, Gautam, I wanted your views. Since you come from the talent part and you would have looked at it within the HR function. Is the adoption of analytics or social media, is it more deterred by our capacity or our capability? What would be your thought on it as a function?
So I would say, okay, is it audible now? So I would say that, it's both ways, because definitely technology helps to make these kind of things far more cost effective, far more time effective, in terms of we are not wasting, so to say, that kind of a time on unproductive or transactional things that we were supposed to, or at one point in time we were doing it. So in a way that definitely helps in a big way. And I gave you some examples about, say, e-recruitment. And today, the face of HR is no more a face of HR, it's a portal. It's the HR site or the employee self-service site which you go to. For example, for us it is called Talent on Demand, right? So if you go on the page of Talent on Demand, you would see anything or everything pertaining to your, in terms of what are your eligibilities, in terms of your insurance or your health or your, in terms of your leaves, in terms of how many leaves you have taken, in terms of what is the next pay date, so on and so forth. Each and every information is available. You want to know about any policy, any guideline, what the firm has introduced, even as of today or yesterday, you can get that updation or you can get that information on the Talent on Demand. And today, I think the time has come when every one of us would like to get into something which is more value add to the business, because business expects us to do that, right? They would not like to see as HR person as a person who is sitting more like as Tarun we use today in our business or any of our functions. As I said initially, be it in terms of manpower planning, today most important factor, and I have one of my colleagues who works on resource utilization here, right? Day in and day out, she is busy in terms of finding out how my resources are being deployed on the project or the engagements that we have. How maximum are we utilizing, right? And those are very critical information which is needed on a day-to-day, hourly basis, I would say. Because that helps to take the leaders to take a better business decision when they get to know what is the reality on the floor, what is happening on the business floor. So today I would say that it is not in terms of capability, but more in terms of that is the need of the hour. That is something which we need every hour at our business, where we need to contribute significantly. And I think we have to adopt, or we have to adopt early in terms of the new technologies, in terms of what can help us better to make ourselves more efficient, which can make ourselves more, providing value to our business leaders and to the business that we work with. Does that help?
Yes, it clearly helps, and it clearly tells us that, both from a capacity and capability, we got to look at ourselves from that point. Bindu, coming to you, and no particular order, but I thought this is where I could leverage your experience with WNS to say how, you use both analytics and social media, because you come from a learning function within the organization to engage employees. If you could share your thoughts on that, both usage of internal social media and the analytics from an engagement perspective, which I'm sure the participants here would want to know.
So I'll give you a particular example from one employee segment, which is, excuse me, the sales segment. And the first thing about analytics, when we looked at it, we said, what is the data that we have? So we have all kinds of data, past data. How do we make this data useful to us? And in an organization, as you all know, and some of you know, WNS is on a high growth stage. And the segment that is really, really helping us through this stage is the sales team. And there was a need for the sales team to say that, do we have the sales team who is capable of meeting our business goals for the future? And L&D was the last function to be consulted here. And that is where we thought that, how can L&D come in here and address this major need of the organization? How can we engage with the sales team to make that happen? And when we looked at data, we realized that with analytics, you could really identify what is the profile that is required at this stage of an organization's growth story. Is the profile that we have currently the right profile? If it is not, then what do we need to do about it? So all we needed to do was to look back at the data. And when we talk about analytics and big data, the most important thing is what data and which data is relevant to us. So before we even get into the analytics stage, there's a huge amount of data planning that happens. So data planning, as I see, is a huge step, and that's a skill that we need to have even before we get into the analytics stage. The other skill is the performance consulting skill, which is new to HR and L&D. So unless you know what the problem is, what needs to be addressed, which data needs to be mined, you can't even reach the analytics stage. So these two worked as great precursors for us. We looked at that, and then we realized there is a particular success profile. And the success profile of now is very, very different to the success profile 5 years ago. The skills are different. The skills that we had earlier were no longer relevant, and therefore we realized that we are not ready for growth. We do not have a sales team which is going to help us in the next 3, 4, or 5 years. So the first step was identifying the profile for which we used analytics. The second stage was to say, now that we've identified success profile, can we predict the success? Can we say how much success will happen based on past data? So what started off as a project in, are we getting the right talent in? Are we measuring the success profile? Then moved to saying, what is the best way to reduce the learning curve of this group in terms of impact to the organization? In the past, we had a 2 to 3 year cycle, and as you know, we are in the BPM industry where the cycle time is very high. Is it possible to reduce that? And with analytics, again, we looked at data again, and we said, there is, if you identify the right success profile, and systemically if you make some changes, that's going to happen. So we started the next round with saying that, what's the learning curve? Therefore, what assimilation needs to be done? The other area that I want to talk about, because it integrated analytics with social media, is the way we assimilate the sales team. Now, our sales team is located across 11 countries, and even in the US. US, we call it one country, but in the US too, most of the salespeople operate from home. So we realized that one of the critical factors of success in the sales profile was collaboration, and there was no way that the entire team is going to get collaborated. So then it was time for us to invest in a social media platform. We used an internal social media platform that people remained on for about a year. We connected it with our CRM tool where the metrics were being shared, there was competition happening. So a project which started with, can you help us hire the right people, ended in saying that we create a simulation, we create long-term development plan, we create an engagement framework, we create a resource management warehouse in the social media platform that people can go to and get the information that they want so that it's relevant and people are connected because they see that. So that was how the story took place. So this example I wanted to share because what started off as small analytics, can you help us, can you give the information to Egon and tell them what kind of people we need, ended up being an end-to-end project. We are one of the few companies that is still looking at double-digit growth rates in a single-digit growth rate industry. So I think, the success, we could measure success very early. Within a year and a half, right now our sales pipeline is looking better than it has ever looked before. So I think we were able to give quick wins with a combination of a social media platform and analytics too.
Great. Moving on from internal to external, and I'll come back to you, Gautam. You talked about Deloitte being present everywhere, and I would want you to share with the participants, how do you use that to engage with prospective employer? Because, internal current employer is a captive audience, and we could use that, but how do you engage social media to engage with the prospective employee? Sorry, not the employer, the employee. And that is something that if you could share with us.
So for a prospective employee, as I said that, when we talk about the social media, essentially it would start from, say for example, LinkedIn or Glassdoor, where you get the relevant information about any organization that you're going to, maybe, for an interview or for any discussion or for a meeting. You get views from various people who have already been to that place. They come and share. Even the employer, for example, even Deloitte would go and talk about its own processes and would also like to help or would also help people by clarifying some questions or some points which have been raised there, right? That's one way of doing it. Now, in terms of interacting with our prospective employees, so as I said, in terms of LinkedIn is one such behavior, in one such tool where we get to see what kind of profiles are we getting, so on and so forth. It could be in terms of, through when before the hiring, and in fact, and when we do those, she mentioned about connecting people virtually, because today in the virtual world hardly anyone gets to see anybody, right? But we are all connected. And when we talk about, for example, visiting any campus, we use all those tools in terms of going to them, telling them about, be it in terms of any podcast or be it in terms of any live, my CEO sits in the US, but at any point given in time, he would come live, he would talk to the audience from there, maybe through a VC, but that's a technology. That's a small way, not exactly in terms of so to say, social HR and all that prospect, but in terms of when he has to meet up with the audience, when he has to communicate his message to the people, that is how we reach out to them, right? So these are some of the things that we do in the campus, and when we reach out to them, how we build a connect with those people. So I would say that we are doing, at this point in time, we are doing much great in terms of connecting with our, with our professionals who are within the firm, be it through various tools which we already have, like Yammer. For example, Yammer is one such, and sorry Amit, I'm talking more about in terms of what we use in Deloitte. Yammer is one such tool. For example, if I'm going to launch, or my organization is going to launch a new insurance scheme for the professionals in Deloitte, right? We conduct a Yam Jam session. So we will have people participating in that discussion from Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai, all of these locations. Our business leaders will be seated at one place. We will open the discussion. We will get their views. Okay, that this is what the changes we are suggesting in the insurance plan this time. We would get feedback from our people. We would like to, if at all we find that, okay, these are meaningful and something which we can really make a change, or which is what our people are expecting of us, that's a change we do. So it's an instant way of interacting with people, because the earlier method, we used to conduct road shows, presentation on the floor. We used to go and talk to our audience that, okay, this is what it is. But nowadays, with these tools available to us, definitely